Greetings. This is Brother Eli with another episode of Bible Truth Revealed. Today's teaching is entitled, Who are the Israelites today? That is, who are the Israelites today? Many groups of people who have very little in common claim to be the descendants of the biblical Israelites. However, not everyone who claims to be an Israelite is truly an Israelite. In this teaching, we will explore the Holy Scriptures to answer the following questions. 1. Who are the Israelites today? And 2. Why does it matter? Before we explore these questions, let's consider why so many people desperately desire to be the Israelites today. Isaiah chapter 43 verse 1. And I will be reading from the Brenton Septuagint translation. Isaiah chapter 43 verse 1 says this. And now, thus says the Most High that made thee, O Jacob, and formed thee, O Israel, fear not, for I have redeemed thee. I have called thee by thy name. Thou art mine. Israel is a nation of people that was chosen by the Most High to be his special people. This is why so many people desperately desire to be Israelites. They like the idea of being the Most High's special people. Deuteronomy chapter 7 verse 6. Deuteronomy chapter 7 verse 6 reads thus. For thou art a holy people to the Most High. This is talking to the children of Israel. And the Most High chose thee to be to him a peculiar people, that means a special people, beyond all nations that are upon the face of the earth. Knowing that the Israelites are a special people to the Most High, it should not surprise us that so many people desperately want to be Israelites. But wishful thinking cannot make someone an Israelite. The Most High chose only one group of people to be his special people, and no amount of scheming or twisting the Holy Scriptures can change this fact. Now let's look at question 1. Who are the Israelites today? In the Encyclopedia Britannica, under the heading 10 Lost Tribes of Israel, it says this. Peoples who at various times were said to be descendants of the lost tribes include the Assyrian Christians, the Mormons, the Afghans, the Beta Israel of Ethiopia, the American Indians, and the Japanese. It is impossible for all of these people to be Israelites because they have very little in common. Having said that, it is accurate to say that there are Israelites among all these groups of people because the Israelites were scattered all over the earth. There are Israelites among the Assyrian Christians, Israelites among the Mormons, among the Afghans, among the Beta Israel of Ethiopia, among the American Indians, and even among the Japanese. But this does not mean that the majority of these people are Israelites. In fact, the opposite is true. There are a few Israelites living among these people groups. Deuteronomy chapter 4, I will read verses 27 and 30. That's Deuteronomy chapter 4, verses 27 and 30. It says, And the Most High shall scatter you among all nations, and ye shall be left few in number among all the nations, among which the Most High shall bring you. Verse 30, and all these things shall come upon thee in the last days. In the last days. In the last days. And thou shalt turn to the Most High, and shall hearken to his voice. As we can see, it was prophesied that in the last days there would be a few Israelites among all the nations. This means that no matter where we go, we can find at least a few Israelites there. The Most High promised to regather the Israelites in the last days, and based on the context of Isaiah chapter 11, this has not yet happened. Let's read Isaiah chapter 11. I will read verses 11 to 12 and 15 to 16. That's Isaiah chapter 11, verses 11 to 12 and 15 to 16. And it proves that the Israelites have not yet been regathered from among the nations. This means that the Israelites are still scattered in the lands of captivity. Verse 11, and it shall be in that day, so that's the day of the Most High, when he regathers his people, that the Most High shall again show his hand, to be zealous for the remnant, which means the remainder, that is left of the people, which shall be left by the Assyrians, and that from Egypt, and from the country of Babylon, and from Ethiopia, and from the Elamites, and from the rising of the sun, and out of Arabia. These are places where the Israelites are scattered even to this very day. Verse 12. And he shall lift up a standard for the nations, and he shall gather the lost ones of Israel, and he shall gather the dispersed of Judah from the four corners of the earth. The Israelites are scattered in the four corners of the earth. And this is a future prophecy which lets us know that the Most High will regather the Israelites in the last days. When we keep reading, it becomes very clear that this has not yet happened. Verse 15, and the Most High shall make desolate the sea of Egypt, and he shall lay his hand on the river with a strong wind, and he shall smite the seven channels, so that men shall pass through it dry shod. This is like what he did when the Israelites were delivered from Egypt, and they walked across the sea on dry land, because the Most High parted the seas so that they could go through. This is saying that in the future, when the Most High regathers the Israelites, he will do it again. Verse 16, and there shall be a passage for my people that is left in Egypt, and it shall be to Israel as the day when he came forth out of the land of Egypt. So again, we are going to know when the Israelites have been regathered, because the Most High is going to split the Egyptian sea so that the Israelites that are in Egypt can walk across on dry land to the land of Israel. For details of how the Israelites will be delivered from the lands of our captivity, please listen to my teaching entitled, The Day of the Lord. That is, the day of the Lord. The Most High knew that in the last days, other people would falsely claim to be his special people. Therefore, he provided a very easy way for us to identify the Israelites, even in these last days. Some gullible people try to use DNA tests to identify the Israelites today. Nevertheless, as this is not the method that was provided by the Most High, it fails miserably. Here is a short video that demonstrates why DNA tests cannot be used to identify the Israelites today.
I wanted to see what would happen if I sent my pet lizard DNA into 23andMe, and so with the help of my wife, we extracted enough saliva to send off in the mail. We were so excited to see the results. After about 3 months, we were shocked. My lizard was 51% Ashkenazi Jewish. He was also 48% West Asian. This was really interesting. They also gave us a little bit of his background and his history, what he liked to eat, etc. Let us know which animal's DNA we should send in next.
Now that we know for a fact that DNA tests cannot be trusted to identify the Israelites today, let's explore the only method that the Most High provided for us to identify the Israelites in the last days. In Deuteronomy chapter 28, the Most High gave us a foolproof way to identify the Israelites today. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 45 to 47. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 45 to 47 reads thus: And all these curses are bad things, shall come upon thee, and shall pursue thee, and shall overtake thee, until he shall have consumed thee, and until he shall have destroyed thee, because thou didst not hearken or listen to the voice of the Most High, to keep his commands and his ordinances which he has commanded thee. And these things, which means the curses, the bad things, shall be signs in thee and wonders among thy seed forever. So the curses, terrible things would happen to the Israelites because they did not keep the commandments of the Most High. And these curses or terrible things are the signs that we can use to identify the Israelites and their seed or children, descendants, offspring forever. Forever includes the last days. Forever includes today. Verse 47. Because thou didst not serve the Most High with gladness and a good heart, because of the abundance of all things. So this is how we can identify the Israelites today, by finding the curses or signs of Deuteronomy chapter 28 and seeing which group of people they apply to. The Israelites are currently scattered all over the earth, just like we've seen in Isaiah chapter 11. That's why the Most High is going to deliver the Israelites from all over the earth where we have been scattered. We were scattered because our forefathers did not keep the commandments of the Most High. And this scattering is the most significant sign that was provided by the Most High to identify the Israelites. Anyone that has read the Holy Scriptures should know that the Israelites were repeatedly enslaved by their enemies. Our forefathers were enslaved by the Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Persians, and the Greeks, to name a few. In more recent history, they were enslaved by the Arabs and the Europeans. As we are focusing on Deuteronomy chapter 28, let's read about the scattering or dispersion of the Israelites in this chapter. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 25. Deuteronomy chapter 28, verse 25 says this: "The Most High give thee up for slaughter before thine enemies." This is one of the curses or signs to identify the Israelites. "Thou shalt go out against them one way, and flee from their face 7 ways. And thou," meaning the Israelites, "shall be a dispersion," which means you will be scattered, "in all the kingdoms of the earth." This again is the most significant sign that can be used to identify the Israelites today. Although some other nations have also experienced slavery, none has been scattered through slavery as much as the children of Israel. Therefore, this is a reliable sign for identifying the Israelites even today. By finding the most significant scattering of a people in the history of slavery, we can easily identify the children of Israel. In the Encyclopedia Britannica, under the heading Transatlantic Slave Trade, it says this: "The largest numbers of enslaved people." The largest numbers of enslaved people. The largest numbers of enslaved people were taken to the Americas during the 18th century, when, according to historians' estimates, nearly 3/5 of the total volume of the transatlantic slave trade took place. As the Most High used the enslavement and scattering of the Israelites as the main sign to identify them in the last days, there should be no doubt whatsoever that the transatlantic slave trade reveals the identity of the Israelites.
Slavery, the treatment of human beings as property deprived of personal rights, has occurred in many forms throughout the world. But one institution stands out for both its global scale and its lasting legacy: the Atlantic slave trade, occurring from the late 15th to the mid-19th century and spanning 3 continents, forcibly brought more than 10 million Africans to the Americas. The impact it would leave affected not only these slaves and their descendants, but the economies and histories of large parts of the world. There had been centuries of contact between Europe and Africa via the Mediterranean, but the Atlantic slave trade began in the late 1400s with Portuguese colonies in West Africa and Spanish settlement of the Americas shortly after. The crops grown in the new colonies, sugarcane, tobacco, and cotton, were labor-intensive, and there were not enough settlers or indentured servants to cultivate all the new land. American natives were enslaved, but many died from new diseases, while others effectively resisted. And so, to meet the massive demand for labor, the Europeans looked to Africa.
The transatlantic slave trade was the greatest enslavement and scattering of a people that the world has ever seen. Our forefathers were scattered across the earth, just like the Most High said would happen to the Israelites if we failed to keep His commandments. Millions of Israelites were scattered to Europe, America, the Caribbean, and so forth. This means that the Negro descendants of the transatlantic slave trade are in fact the descendants of the biblical Israelites. We are the nation of people that continue to be pursued by the curses of Deuteronomy chapter 28 to this very day.
We know that some people are being sold.
Yes.
Some people are being sold. Is this
Yes.
something you've heard about? Can you tell us about
Sure.
that? Tell us.
I was sold.
What happened?
On my way coming, I was sold.
There is a growing number of people who believe that the transatlantic slave trade never happened because they have discovered that the original people of the Americas were a people of color. Their reasoning is that if there were already so-called black people in America, the Negroes couldn't have been taken to America on ships. What they fail to realize is that the entire earth was once populated by people of color. Therefore, it stands to reason that the aboriginals of the Americas were also people of color. This is not a good reason to dismiss the transatlantic slave trade. To learn about the original people of the land that is now called America, please listen to my teaching entitled, Who are the Children of Japheth? That is, who are the children of Japheth? They're certainly not Israelites. Another objection to the existence of the transatlantic slave trade is, we are all the ships.
Where your sailboats at? Your slave ships. You should have one parked right by the museums and have tours of everything. You got them Confederate people up there. They was fighting for their slavery rights to have slaves. You still got their monuments up. You got houses where slave owners had slaves, and they tourist attractions everywhere in America. But you ain't got one slave ship nowhere parked nowhere. Taking tours all your captains on there, nothing. You got 2x4s and nails and talking about these are remnants, but you got whole tourist attractions and museums everywhere. Ask yourself that, baby. Where the ships at?
Anyone who is serious about this subject can find the answer to this question in a matter of minutes. When the slave trade was abolished, the ships were used to carry other types of cargo. Cargo ships were sold or passed on from one merchant to another until they could no longer be used. On safety4sea.com, there's an article entitled, Do you know what happens to a ship when it's too old to sail anymore? Quote 1 says, the average lifespan of a ship is 25 to 30 years. Again, the average lifespan of a ship is 25 to 30 years. This means that it is unreasonable to expect ships from hundreds of years ago to be available to us today. After 25 to 30 years, they are no longer safe to use. Therefore, they are demolished, dismantled, or recycled. Quote 2 says, ship recycling, also seen as ship demolition, ship dismantling, or ship breaking, is by far the most environmentally friendly and economically sound way of getting rid of old ships, as it allows the materials from the ship, especially steel, iron, aluminum, and plastics, to be recycled and made into new products. Again, it is normal practice to get rid of ships after 25 to 30 years. And the material from the ship, whether it be wood or something else, is recycled and made into new products. Therefore, it is unreasonable to expect to find the cargo ships from hundreds of years ago still intact today. The transatlantic slave trade is a traumatic but crucial part of our people's history that the oppressor is trying to erase. And many so-called black people are enabling the oppressor by claiming that the transatlantic slave trade never happened.
Ask yourself that, baby. Where the ships at?
This is not wise. I encourage you to read Deuteronomy chapter 28 so you can see for yourself that all the curses or signs point to the so-called Negroes as being the children of Israel. Let's examine a few of these signs together. Deuteronomy chapter 28, I will read verses 32 and 41. That's Deuteronomy chapter 28, verses 32 and 41. And it says this: Thy sons and thy daughters shall be given to another nation, and thine eyes wasting away shall look for them, thine hand shall have no strength. Verse 41, Thou shalt beget sons and daughters, and they shall not be thine, for they shall depart into captivity. This is something that repeatedly happened to enslaved Negroes on the slave plantations of America, Europe, the Caribbean, you name it. Our sons and daughters were sold off by our slave masters, and there was nothing we could do about it. This is a clear sign that we are the descendants of the biblical Israelites.
Please, help me, help me. Mama! Please,
Now let's read verse 48. Verse 48 says, And thou shalt serve thine enemies, which the Most High will send forth against thee, in hunger, and in thirst, and in nakedness, and in the want of all things. And thou shalt wear upon thy neck a yoke of iron. Thou shalt wear upon thy neck a yoke of iron until he shall have destroyed thee. The enslaved Negroes served their enemies, and they had yokes of iron upon their necks to make it difficult for them to escape. This is another clear sign that we are the descendants of the biblical Israelites.
Good lines to that one.
Look at his eyes. He's not even close to being broken.
Now, here's a likely-looking hand, a prime young buck, just picked from the trees. Bright as a monkey. Good bones, sinew. Wanted free of defect. Good teeth, good for Carolina rice, Virginia tobacco, Maryland corn. Pull like an ox and carry like a mule. Step up, see for yourself, gentlemen. He's free of thieves, piles, French pox. He's young, biddable, fine animal, gentlemen. I'm going to start the bidding at 150. There's no need to waste time. He's the pick of the herd, gentlemen. You won't find his like in these degenerate days. Who'll give me 150?
Verse 26. Verse 26 says, and your dead men shall be food to the birds of the sky, and to the beasts of the earth, and there shall be none to scare them away. The lynch mobs that were organized by the oppressor used to hang Negroes from trees and take photos with our dead bodies. Then the birds of the sky and the beasts of the earth would come to eat our rotting flesh, and no one would scare them away. This is yet another clear sign that we are the descendants of the biblical Israelites. Verses 64 to 66. Verses 64 to 66 says, And the Most High shall scatter thee among all nations. So we've seen that already. The Israelites have been scattered repeatedly, including the sub-Saharan slave trade and the transatlantic slave trade, from one end of the earth to the other. And thou shalt there serve other gods, wood and stone, which thou hast not known, nor thy fathers. Our fathers, such as Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, never even heard of Islam or Christianity. Yet nowadays, in the lands of our captivity, Israelites are bowing to wooden crosses and kissing stones because we were enslaved and destroyed by our enemies. This is what it means by, Thou shalt there serve other gods, wood, that's the wooden cross of Christianity, and stone, that's the Kaaba stone of Islam, which thou hast not known, nor thy fathers. Verse 65. Moreover, among those nations he will not give thee quiet, neither by any means shall the sole of thy foot have rest. And the Most High shall give thee there another and a misgiving heart, and failing eyes, and a wasting soul. So-called Negroes continue to be enslaved to this very day, and we are powerless to do anything about it. We have a misgiving heart and failing eyes and a wasting soul because of the curses that continue to pursue us.
Just take us home. No food, no water. Just take us home. Want to go? No food, no water, nothing.
Victory was a slave.
We know that some people are being sold.
Yes.
Some people are being sold. Is this something you've heard about? Can you tell us about that?
Sure.
Tell us.
I was sold.
What happened?
On my way coming, I was sold. Merciless beating. If you look at most of the people here, if you check their body, you see the mark, they're beating. With electric, even your boots, they took something like a sharp object. Understand? Most of them lost their life there. I was there, the person who came to buy me give the man money. They take me out home. So the money was not even much.
Other migrants now start to come forward with their stories.
They took people to work by force. Even when we are at the seaside, when we are working the work, they will be beating you. When you are working the work, I'm doing your work. They will be maltreating us.
Verse 66. And thy life shall be in suspense before thine eyes, and thou shalt be afraid by day and by night, and thou shalt have no assurance of thy life. Thou shalt have no assurance of thy life. On www.nbcnews.com, there is an article entitled, Black People Are Still Killed by Police at a Higher Rate Than Other Groups. That is, black people are still killed by police at a higher rate than other groups. Quote 1 says this: After all the attention the Black Lives Matter-led racial justice movement generated after George Floyd's death in 2020, new data show that the number of black people killed by police has actually increased, not decreased, but increased over the last 2 years. To this very day, so-called black people have no assurance of our life. Black Lives Matter has not managed to decrease the number of black people being killed by police. After all that marching, the number of black people killed by police has actually increased over the last 2 years. This is one of the signs that the so-called Negroes are the Israelites that the Bible speaks of. Quote number 2 says, black people, who account for 13% of the US population, accounted for 27% of those fatally shot and killed by police in 2021, according to Mapping Police Violence, a non-profit group that tracks police shootings. That means black people are twice as likely as white people to be shot and killed by police officers. Let me read that again. Black people are twice as likely as white people to be shot and killed by police officers. And this is after all the marching by Black Lives Matters. It has made no positive difference whatsoever in the lives of Israelites living in the United States of America. Deuteronomy chapter 28 verse 29 says, "And thou shalt grope at midday, as a blind man would grope in the darkness, and thou shalt not prosper in thy ways. And then thou shalt be unjustly treated and plundered continually, and there shall be no helper." Again, thou shalt be unjustly treated and plundered continually, and there shall be no helper. To this very day, Israelites are being unjustly treated and plundered continually, and no one can help us. Not even Black Lives Matter.
A man addressing an unseen crowd. Big strong boys for farm work, he says. 400. 700. 700. 800. The numbers roll in. These men are sold for 1,200 Libyan pounds, $400 apiece. You are watching an auction of human beings. Another man, claiming to be a buyer. Off camera, someone asks, "What happened to the ones from Niger?" Sold off, he's told. CNN was sent this footage by a contact. After months of working, we were able to verify the authenticity of what you see here.
It should be clear by now who the Israelites are today. If you are part of the nation of people that continues to be pursued by the curses of Deuteronomy chapter 28 to this very day, that means you are an Israelite. Nevertheless, even more important than knowing that you are an Israelite is returning to the Most High only and keeping His commandments. Which brings us to question number 2. Why does it matter? Deuteronomy chapter 30, I will read verses 1 to 7. That's Deuteronomy chapter 30, verses 1 to 7. And it reads thus: And it shall come to pass, when all these things shall have come upon thee, the blessing and the curse, which I have set before thy face, and thou shalt call them to mind among all the nations, wherein the Most High shall have scattered thee, and shalt return to the Most High, and shalt hearken to his voice, according to all things which I charge thee this day, with all thy heart and with all thy soul, then the Most High shall heal thine iniquities. So what is required for us to be healed of our iniquities is that we return to the Most High only, that we hearken or listen to his voice, which means that we keep his commandments with all our heart and with all our soul. Verse 3 again. Then the Most High shall heal thine iniquities, and shall pity thee, and shall again gather thee out from all the nations among which the Most High has scattered thee. So the Israelites are still scattered amongst the nations. The Israelites have not yet been gathered and returned to the land of Israel, which means that if anyone is claiming that that has happened, that person has been deceived. Verse 4. If thy dispersion be from one end of heaven to the other, thence will the Most High gather thee, and thence will the Most High take thee, and the Most High shall bring thee in from thence into the land which thy fathers have inherited. This is a promised land, and thou shalt inherit it. So this hasn't happened yet. And he will do thee good, and multiply thee above thy fathers. And the Most High shall purge thy heart, and the heart of thy seed, to love the Most High with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, that thou mayest live. So when the Most High returns the Israelites to the promised land, he will purge our heart and the heart of our children, so that we would love him with all our heart and with all our soul. This means we'll no longer be breaking his commandments. Verse 7. And the Most High will put these curses upon thine enemies. So all these curses that continue to pursue the Israelites to this very day will be taken off us and put upon our enemies, and upon those that hate thee, who have persecuted thee. So the Arabs who enslaved the children of Israel will receive these curses. The Europeans who enslaved the children of Israel will receive these curses. And every other nation that has ever enslaved and persecuted and hated the children of Israel will receive these curses. The time has come for the Israelites to return to the Most High only and keep his commandments. For details of how to do so, please listen to my teaching entitled, What Does the Most High Require of You? That is, what does the Most High require of you? In conclusion, the curses of Deuteronomy chapter 28 are the only signs that the Most High provided to identify the Israelites in the last days. The Negro descendants of the Transatlantic slave trade are some of the many Israelites that are scattered in the four corners of the earth. when we remember the covenant which the Most High made with our fathers, and we return to him with all our heart and soul, he will gather us from wherever we are scattered. He will return us to the land which he promised to our fathers. And best of all, he will remove the curses from us and pour them upon our enemies. So I pray that my people, the Negro descendants of the transatlantic slave trade, and all the other Israelites that are scattered abroad, will reject the false religions of Christianity and Islam, will stop worshiping wood and stone, and will return to the Most High only and keep his commandments. And with that I say, Salam.